Caleb Williams has had one of the worst starts in rookie quarterback history. It might be time for the Chicago Bears to panic. That and more on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready. Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome in to the new Locked On NFL, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with the help of our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, joined today by Locked On NFL expert, the brain, Luke Braun. On today's episode, we're going to talk about whether it's time to panic for some teams around the NFL. The Titans and the Broncos have quarterback problems. The Colts and the Jags are seeing their season slip away. The Baltimore Ravens and the Chicago Bears also looking at some trouble ahead. Before we get into all of it, I do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen of the day and for being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Make sure that you tune in later this afternoon and step into the barbershop with Tony Wiggins as he hosts the afternoon edition of Locked On NFL. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. The Chicago Bears go to 1-1 on the season, but Caleb Williams has had a historically bad start to his rookie year through 2 weeks. But my guy Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears doesn't think that it's all on Caleb Williams.
And while Caleb Williams certainly struggled, so did the rest of the Bears offense. And that to me is the bigger concern here. That, yeah, okay, we knew Caleb's a rookie. We've got plenty of time to be patient with Caleb and anticipate that you're going to see some interceptions and maybe bad decisions here and there. But the rest of the offense was supposed to be ready now, ready today, veteran, experienced, loaded up on talent and dialed in to support that rookie quarterback. And they have not been able to do so much at all now through 2 games. And that's just not going to beat teams like the Houston Texans. It's enough to beat a team like the Titans when you get a pick 6 and a special teams touchdown in there as well. But the Bears against the Texans needed a lot more from, yes, Caleb Williams, but everyone else especially. Because I think the biggest story from this game, once again, is the offensive line more than anything else.
So, Luke, Lauren put a lot of the blame on other places. But again, it's been a historically bad start for Caleb Williams. I know that you have some thoughts on not only Caleb Williams, but the process.
I have some thoughts on the Chicago Bears, Tyler.
Luke, is it time to panic about Caleb Williams and the Bears?
Look, I want to start off. Lauren, I love you. This is not on you, okay? Lauren has been like uniquely patient and has very much set a reasonable expectation for Caleb Williams, and so I really don't think that this applies to him. Lauren, you can turn this off. It's okay. Everybody else, okay? And that's everybody in the Bears organization, from Ryan Poles through Eberflus through Shane Waldron and QB coach Kerry Joseph. Everybody all the way down has to answer for their crimes. And Lauren's not wrong. That center they got over there, re-education camp immediately. Please get him to understand the good book, okay? Like something is wrong with that guy. But Caleb Williams, outside of all of it, is making unacceptable mistakes that make all of those problems worse. And those unacceptable mistakes were very apparent in college. Here's the thing about how the Bears themselves did this. The Bears did not have patience. They did not take the approach that Lauren Cox is taking and going, well, we'll develop him right. You know, we'll teach him how to do NFL stuff. Not right. The way the Patriots are doing this with Drake May, who they seem to like better than Jacoby Brissett, but they're optimizing him, right? Or the way that the Falcons, in a very extreme case, are doing with Michael Penix, or what Vikings were going to do with J.J. McCarthy before he got hurt. They're putting him right into the fire and saying, you as a college quarterback were so dynamic that we want that to just be our offense now. Well, guess what? It has 1 offensive touchdown in 2 games. It is the worst net yards per attempt in 10 years for a player's first 2 games. It sucks. It's not a little bit of a rough patch. It sucks. It smells like dookie, okay? It is bad offense. So what do you do now if you're the Bears? Do you bring him out and like develop him? Do you put handcuffs on him, which is what it seems like they've done? They've told him you can't scramble so much. You took that terrible sack against your Titans. You can't do that anymore. You gotta stay in the pocket and play where you're uncomfortable. Well, they didn't spend any of their time trying to develop a real NFL quarterback. They brought a college quarterback into the league, and he is getting killed like a college quarterback gets killed. So Bears, answer for your crimes.
Listen, I think maybe not panic on the outcome of the season, but I agree that it's time to panic with the plan that the Bears put in place, because it's clearly not the way that they should have developed Caleb Williams and just allowed him to kind of roam free again, like you said, like he's in college. It's simply not going to work. And here's the other thing. I was told, and Lauren hinted at this, I was told this was a ready-made team. I was told that this was the best situation that a rookie
ever for a first overall pick. It's not even the best situation in the league. It's not even a top 3 situation in the league. The center sucks. DJ Moore is playing like crap. Keenan Allen's hurt all the time. The line is terrible. And the offensive coordinator is public enemy number 1 in Chicago again. And it's not even October yet.
And Caleb Williams has been missing throws as well. So everybody is to blame, but the plan that the Bears put in place for this season and how they wanted to handle Caleb Williams, that is something that does need a panic button press on it. But it's not the only team. The Baltimore Ravens are 0-2, and the good loss to the Kansas City Chiefs is entirely erased by a bad loss.
The BCS quality loss.
The Las Vegas Raiders. And our guy, Kevin Ostreicher from Locked On Ravens, thinks the blame needs to be put on John Harbaugh.
Devontae Adams clearly possession 2 feet in bounds, and you lose your second challenge. Now, again, the new rule is that you now have the opportunity to challenge 2 plays. You get 1 right, and you get your challenge. You get your second challenge for a third. John Harbaugh goes 0 for 2 on his challenges. And guess what? Oh, it's not like the Ravens needed a timeout or anything, right? Not like there was a big late game situation where the Raiders are running down the clock to try to get as much time off and kick the game-winning field goal. There was nothing like that happened, right? We all saw no. The Ravens needed that timeout. It was imperative they had it. And when they needed it most, they didn't have it because John Harbaugh is out there challenging plays and his replay staff is looking at plays and telling them to challenge that are so clear and obviously not plays you challenge, that are so clear and obviously things that, even if you're not entirely 100% sure, it's just you have to look and be more situationally aware.
John Harbaugh next.
Classic
Luke.
Mike McCarthy.
Yep. John Harbaugh is next. It's the offensive and defensive coordinator. It's the offensive line. It's the wide receivers. It's the run game. It's always somebody else. The Grim Reaper that is Lamar Jackson knocking on the doors with the blood spilling out the bottom, the meme. Lamar Jackson is the Grim Reaper in that meme, and everybody else in the Baltimore Ravens organization are the doors. Look, at the end of the day, though, Baltimore is a worse team this year than they were last year. I think they missed their real chance to take down Patrick Mahomes and make it to the Super Bowl, and I think it's only going to get worse. Baltimore sitting at 0-2 with the vibes right now. They'll probably be able to get back on track because the Ravens have good players, and Lamar is a good player. But at the end of the day, I think if you're looking at a Super Bowl chance for the Ravens, yes, it is time to press the panic button.
Lamar Jackson right now, 23rd in my favorite QB stat, which is EPA and completion percentage over expectation composite. I think that does a good job of sort of capturing how much they're doing for the offense without overly or paying too much to like stuff getting schemed up and how difficult those plays are to complete. Yeah, 23rd in that, sitting around Trevor Lawrence and whatever happened to Jordan Love before he got hurt. So, yeah, not a great start for the Ravens. Although I will say the Owen Tombstone thing, especially with the 17th game, is a little overblown. Right. But mostly that's because we're talking about the AFC North, and I can't stop thinking about how the Bengals do this every year.
Right.
I think there's a world where you can get it back. I have always been a believer in the Lamar Jackson offense. I think there is something so valuable about being the only team on everyone's schedule that does it the way you do it. And as long as you can execute it properly, you just present such a different challenge. As long as there isn't like a kryptonite, like a fix everyone can just put in and have that be the fix to your offense, right? If you have a quarterback that's really good, but he dies to the blitz and everyone can just blitz you and you just lose all your games. I don't think that exists for Lamar Jackson. I think rough game against the Raiders. You hate to see an established, former coach of the year, John Harbaugh, one of the more respected names, taking heat for bad challenges, but that happens. And that's the NFL. It's the way it goes. But go bounce back, be 1-2. I don't know who they have next week, but go be 1-2, and this will feel a lot less bad.
To me, you're right about the offense being very unique, and I would compare it to a basketball thing. To me, Cowboys. It's like Allen Iverson. It's like James Harden. Like, everybody always said with Allen Iverson's career, hey, if you just gave him better defense, hey, the roster that he has. It's Carmelo Anthony as well. Hey, he needs this support. He wasn't given this. In my opinion, the way that Lamar Jackson plays football is the way that Lamar Jackson plays football. And no matter what you do with the offensive coordinator or what you do with the run game or what you do with the wide receivers, he's still not going to have the down-to-down consistency throwing the ball from the pocket that you want. And at the end of the day, that's what's going to matter. And like I talked about in week 1, the flashy run plays kind of put the veil over everybody's eyes and get him excited about what he can do. And he's a fantastic player, but it's his style of playing, the way he wants to play football, that limits that team, not all the other things around him. That'll be my take until he proves otherwise. But the Colts and the Jaguars expected to have good seasons, and they're both sitting at 0-2. Is it time to hit the panic button? We're going to talk about that. Thanks for tuning in to Locked On NFL. It's your team every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode is brought to you by DoorDash. Look, I love DoorDash. I'm not going to lie. I just got my lunch delivered from DoorDash, and it was absolutely delicious. And I count on DoorDash all the time during these busy weeks when recording a bunch of podcasts, trying to do a bunch of film, and engaging with the hooligans on Twitter, of course. There's a lot to do, and that's why DoorDash comes through in the clutch. And it's not just a meal. You can get groceries. You can get retail items on DoorDash. So it doesn't matter what you need. You can get it, and you can get it fast on DoorDash. Look, football is finally back, which means it's time to order your favorite game day food, snacks, and drinks on DoorDash without missing a play. Make sure that you use the promo code LOCKEDFALL24 for 50% off, up to a $10 value when you spend $15 on your first order. Limited time offer. Terms apply. Promo is only valid on orders, not valid on orders containing alcohol. DoorDash, your door to game day greatness, your door to more. Download the DoorDash app now to order your game day favorites. Must be 21 plus to order alcohol. Drink responsibly. Alcohol only available in select markets. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. Look, FanDuel Sportsbook is America's #1 sportsbook, and for a reason. And that's why we talk about FanDuel so much. But this time, I got something a little bit different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Make sure that you check out everything FanDuel has to offer. Visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. All right, football fans, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. It's a Panic Button Wednesday episode. Look, we talked about the Bears. We talked about the Ravens. Now we got to head to the AFC South, where two teams that their fan bases expected to be contenders this year. There was hype that both of these teams could be a real playoff player. But it's not going well so far. And we're going to start in Jacksonville with the barber himself, Tony Wiggins, talking about how it's just the same old vibes in Jacksonville.
The Jags look like, well, the same old Jags, and that's problematic. It was the process that we were all bought into, and we were just saying, okay, it looks like it's getting better. It's improving. It's moving in a different direction. And then they come out this year with some new parts and new pieces, and they're supposed to take that next step. The problem is they're not even looking like the same Jags of the last 2 years. They're looking like the worst part of that. And the worst part of that still had the DNA of the bad Jaguars that they inherited back in 2020 and 2021, right? So now this team is starting to resemble, maybe not necessarily in play because they've been competitive in their first 2 games, but they are starting to resemble in attitude, in apathy, in the things that people are saying. Is now making me take a bigger look. This is what's going on. There is no executive vice president. There's Mark Lampin is a good guy. He's a team president, but he's a businessman. He ain't in football operations like that. This team is run by Trent Baalke, and basically he reports everything to Shad Khan. The common denominator, and the reason why I talked about this team looking just like the other teams is because they have changed a whole lot of parts. They've changed players. They've changed management. The one thing that they have not changed from 2020 is Trent Baalke.
Tony Wiggins, my guy, looking fantastic with the beard and the hair, but of course he is the barber, so no shock there. But he is not a big Trent Baalke supporter. That is a reality here. But I just got to say this. Trevor Lawrence, 0-7 in his last 7 starts. At some point, Luke, it's just the vibe around the team. At some point,
Really?
it's just a team that doesn't know how to close and doesn't have any stability. And it may be something, Tony's talked about it on recent shows, like it may be something in the water. It's hard to put your finger on it because the Jags do have talent, but there is just a culture in Jacksonville that cannot come up in the clutch. They choke at every single opportunity. I have watched this team for 25 years, and they just cannot break through when they have good teams. And with it being 0-2 and the finger pointing is going to start soon, it is absolutely time to panic for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
So unfortunately, I couldn't catch any of the Jag stuff because of the Vikings coverage that I had to do kind of while those games were on. So I guess I have questions. For what really the 0-7 in the last Trevor? That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That it's falling apart like that. It kind of reminds me the way you describe it of like the Jim Caldwell Lions. Do you remember this? Where Jim Caldwell, perfectly good coach, but it just kind of never came together.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually he got ousted, and then they went into like a way worse valley, and they haven't really had anything remotely successful until Dan Campbell came in and brought culture. Like Dan Campbell's culture in Detroit is different than anything Detroit has seen since World War II. And that's maybe what Jacksonville needs here. And maybe, so I guess my question is, who do you think gets the finger pointed at him here? Who's the first scapegoat to fall if we're going to start on our Ravens arc of everybody going down? Is it Dougie P?
I gotta say, the Doug Peterson, Press Taylor combo mind share is just not getting the job done. And the Eagles championship has to be the biggest blip in NFL history. Doug Peterson,
look, man,
and Nick Foles, like that has to be the biggest extreme example ever. At the end of the day, I just don't think that Doug Peterson is a great coach who has control of his locker room. I just don't. And I think at the end of the day, when they get down in these critical situations, the team does not believe in the coaching staff, and there is a lack of belief overall in themselves to close the deal. So for me, I'm pressing the panic button on the Jags, but on the other side of it, I'm not pressing the panic button on the Colts. And I know that Anthony Richardson has struggled, but I believe more in what the Colts are doing than the Jags. And my guys over at Locked On Colts discussed exactly that.
I will start it off by saying panic meter, maybe 2, like maybe 2.5. Like, you have to be a little concerned about.
Well, what's the scale? What's the scale?
10 is like,
2.
Yeah, 1.5, 2. Like, it's like, yes, there is some concern in terms of a quarterback who wasn't very accurate in college, still hasn't been very accurate in the NFL in terms of completion percentage. I get there being some concern there. Like, I'm not going to say it's completely out the window, but again, I think if you've been following rookie quarterbacks in the last 10 years, this is such a normal development for these guys, especially for his archetype of rookie quarterback. The big athlete, big armed, just kind of gunslinger type. Like his ADOT is rivaling Justin Herbert's rookie season, and Herbert was like a 4-year starter at Oregon. It's a very, very different world that he's living in than most rookie quarterbacks. So I've seen a lot of normal from him. Like he looks like an Allen Love, type of young quarterback.
Here's the thing. I don't think that Anthony Richardson is ever going to be a clean football player. Like, he's not going to make turnovers. He's not going to make mistakes. But his explosive ability, I think, is going to be able to make up for that. I think Josh Allen is a good comparison of a guy who's going to turn over the ball a lot, but he's going to make these crazy freak plays that only a handful of guys in the whole league can make. I actually don't think that Anthony Richardson is the biggest problem for the Colts. Their wide receiver room has been pathetic, other than Alec Pierce early in this season. A lack of effort, a lack of intensity, and their run defense. I mean, Green Bay truly ran a high school football game plan against them with Malik Willis last week and ran the ball down their throat. So, and Joe Mixon ran the ball down their throat in week one.
That's what you panic about. You don't panic about the QB because he had a couple turnovers because he's young. You panic
exactly. So I guess that's
a team without a quarterback ran the ball on you. Like,
I'm not pressing the panic button on Anthony Richardson and the Colts' entire season, but it may be time to panic about their run defense, because if they don't get that cleaned up, they're not going to be able to do much at all.
Anthony Richardson was very much my guy coming out of that draft.
Mm-hmm.
And
how you feel about him now?
Same. I'll stick by him. I like what they put in the rundown there on that Colts clip. If you're listening on audio, the way that they had that, they called it a valley game. A valley game. I like that. There's going to be peaks and valleys to Anthony Richardson. The accuracy was a thing coming. Like, this is what you bought. You bought somebody that is going to have a rough outing sometimes, but because of the explosiveness, you're going to just have to ride that roller coaster. And for me, like, that was actually a deal with the devil. I really wanted the Vikings to find a way to make that year, like, really bad. And they were closer than you think. So if you're the Colts, you just have to take that one on the chin. You're not panicking about it. This is part of what you should come to expect. And just hope that over time they get less and less frequent.
Yeah, they're not losing those games because of Anthony Richardson, in my opinion. He's obviously a contributing factor, but there are other parts that are way more to blame than Anthony Richardson. Luke, real quick, if you had to pick one of these teams to come back and make the playoffs, Jags or Colts, who are you going with?
Colts. I just believe in Anthony Richardson. That's all it is.
Right. I'll go with the Colts as well. And there's something stinky in Jacksonville, man. Again, it's a culture problem there, and I don't trust that they're going to be able to get out of it. Speaking of peaks and valleys, two quarterbacks that have had nothing but valleys so far, Will Levis and Bo Nix.
Desert basins.
It's time to panic about those young quarterbacks. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is the best place to buy tickets, period. I'm going to an NFL game this weekend. I bought my tickets on Gametime. Gametime has the best features in the industry, and now they have a brand new feature that makes your experience even better. It's called Gametime Picks. It makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I said the features are the best, and outside of the new Gametime Picks, you still have a view from your seat. They literally give you a panoramic view from your seat, so you know what you're going to be looking at when you sit down. And if you toggle on the feature, you can get all-in pricing, so you actually know what you're going to pay for your tickets when you look at the prices. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. All right, Luke, we are going to cap off today's edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. It is a Panic Button Wednesday episode. We talked about the Bears and the Ravens, the Jags and the Colts. Now we're going to talk about two young quarterbacks that, quite honestly, have been awful through 2 weeks of the season. We'll start in Denver because, Luke, I want to pat myself on the back. I want to play my own
Sean
trumpet.
Payton hate. Sean Payton hate.
So
a welcome place here on Wednesdays on Locked On NFL.
I've taken a lot of flack from Broncos fans for my Broncos takes over the last few years. They traded for Russell Wilson. I said that would be a flop. I did not think that would work for them. They trade for Sean Payton. I said this is a disaster. Sean Payton is not the coach that he once was. He doesn't have any recent success that you can point to and be excited about. This is not going to work. To give up picks and give up important assets to get this coach is a massive mistake. And Broncos fans, understandably so, reacted very harshly. They did not like that I had to say that. Well, I'm sorry, Broncos fans. I tried to tell you. All right. And you know what makes Bo Nix has 4 interceptions and 0 passing touchdowns in 2 games. The interception that he had against the Steelers this week in the red zone was one of the worst interceptions that I have seen in recent memory. He threw it right to the Steelers guy, and he sat in his zone. It wasn't even disguised. He just didn't see the defender at all. And here's what makes it even worse. I'm pressing the panic button on the Broncos, but it's not necessarily because of Bo Nix. It's Sean Payton that I'm pressing the panic button on. Sean Payton hasn't won a Super Bowl since I was in high school, Luke. Sean Payton hasn't won a playoff game since before I even worked for Locked On. All right. Sean Payton is a guy who went to the booth and should have stayed there. The game has passed him by. And the fact that he peacocked all over the NFL for getting Bo Nix, like he duped everybody to get Bo Nix to fall to where he was, and to pick Bo Nix as the 6th quarterback off the board in the first round, he stamped Bo Nix and said, ha, I fooled all you guys. I got my guy. He's going to run my offense. Now it's finally Sean Payton time. Nobody loves saying it's Sean Payton time like Sean Payton. So the problem is the offense has been despicable. Bo Nix has looked terrible. And Sean Payton laughed in our faces and said, ha ha, I tricked you. I got everything I wanted. Well, there you go, Sean Payton. You got everything you wanted and everything's crumbling. It is Sean Payton's fault, and trading valuable assets and first-round picks for Sean Payton after making the same mistake with Russell Wilson, who similarly was an out-of-his-prime person. It's the same. What they did with Russell Wilson, what they did with Sean Payton, taking a chance on a guy who's out of his prime, who the league has passed by, and they're paying for it now. And I can do nothing but laugh at Sean Payton the same way he tried to laugh at the NFL.
Look, if Sean Payton is somebody out of his prime that the league has passed by, it makes sense that he bought into Bo Nix, who is also past his prime.
Yes.
And
he's
I'm not letting Bo Nix off the hook, man. You're being nice to Bo Nix. I'm not letting Bo Nix off the hook. This was an idiot move. I'm sorry, man. Like you could watch Bo Nix and say that there is an NFL backup. The right. Oregon offense, which is what Sean Payton is running. Here's the problem. The Oregon offense doesn't work in the NFL. This is this is an episode of like They Are Who We Thought They Were. Mm-hmm. These guys are the same guys they are in college. You have to make changes to them if you want them to change.
Right.
Bo Nix has basically the only passing offense the Broncos have had has been under 10 yards. Here's a stat for you. Over 10 yards, on attempts over 10 yards, 5 completions in the first 2 games, 4 interceptions. Come on, dude. Like that's not offense. And they're running the Oregon offense. It reminds me a lot of going all the way back to Ole Miss a few years ago with Matt Corral and Lane Kiffin running this really weird dink and dunk Mickey Mouse offense. And he was in the head coaching cycle that year. So everybody was kind of going like, yeah, but wait, isn't his offense kind of fake? And you had to realize, like, no, his offense is just like that because he has Matt Corral and that's all he can do. And it's very clear that Oregon was doing that as well, that they were just doing, perimeter screens, quick game, staple concepts, and Bo Nix could execute those very well. He could be quick about it. He could be in rhythm about it. And that was the point of him. But when you needed him to push the ball downfield, all of these problems showed up in his accuracy and in mechanics and decision-making. He would get slow on it. Like so many little problems cropped up that you're going, I don't know if this guy can do like an NFL downfield offense. So for me, I was like, yeah, this guy's a 3rd round pick. I think he's got a future as a backup in this league. They pick him 12th overall. They brag about it. And now they all have Dookie on their face. I'm sorry. You guys bought into this. Look in the mirror.
I'm with you. I love it. I love the Broncos. Hey, it's something that I've been on. George Patton needs to go, or Payton, whatever. I hate when people's names are spelled obviously different than the pronunciations.
It is Payton. Yeah, it's Payton and Payton.
Against it. Yeah, Patton. That's Patton. Somebody lied to him growing up. Their whole family's disenfranchised now. No, jokes aside, I think it is time. It is time to panic for the Broncos from the top down. GM, coach, quarterback. They need new all of it. I will take a second and talk about the Titans. I don't like to talk Titans on the show. Nobody clicks on Locked On NFL to hear me talk about the Titans. You could click on Locked On Titans if you wanted that. But Will Levis, while making some good splash throws that he does, his down-to-down decision-making is so poor. Whether it be the boneheaded mistakes that you've all seen on TV now with the flick six, as it's being called in week 1, or the lateral while he's upside down in week 2. It's not only that, it goes past that. He is missing wide open players and reads that, look, not every route on a play is something that a quarterback's actually going to throw to. That's a reality, that not everything is available to all quarterbacks. But there are just obvious throws that are part of his progression that he is not seeing and deciding to make more risky plays instead. So I am not going to fully press the panic button on Will Levis and the Titans, but I'm going to put 2 fingers down and wait. That's what I would say right now, because Levis is 25 years old. And as I said to you, Luke, before we jumped on, he is the oldest starting quarterback in the AFC South. And a lot of people have been saying, yeah, he may be 25, but he didn't have a lot of experience in college. Well, I'm sorry. Part of the NFL process is not just your experience level. It is your age, because 25-year-old men are at a different place in their maturity and their development as a human than 21-year-old men and 22-year-old
There's actually a lot
men.
of like brain studies on that. That's like a
Yes.
real thing. Like if you think about like learning a language or something, which is very similar to,
Right.
learning a new way of playing quarterback, like cognitively.
Mhm.
Yeah. By about 23, 24, you are like a fully grown, and there's actually like a lot of studies on that, which makes sense on like QB age. I think for an NFL professional, you probably can be expected to do a little bit more than that, but it'll just be harder.
Yeah, I just think it's fool's gold for certain fans to say, oh, Levis is still inexperienced and young. He came from a pro-style system with Liam Cohen in Kentucky. He was expected to be more pro-ready to fit into a pro system, and he's 25. He's older than Trevor Lawrence, older than C.J. Stroud, older than Anthony Richardson. He does not get the same rope in terms of, oh, he needs to develop as younger players do. So 2 fingers on the panic button for Will Levis and the Titans. And I will tell you, folks, I'm taking a lot of heat from the Titans fan base for my criticism of Levis right now, but it's time to be fair and honest and not lie about what we're seeing.
So are you excited for the 2025 Will Levis Bryce Young competition in Tennessee?
Oh, my Lord. Luke, that's going to do it for us today on Locked On NFL. No, thank you all for tuning in. Again, make sure that you tune in the afternoon for Tony Wiggins in the barbershop. But tomorrow, Thursday, is another football day, and I'll be back with you with Michelle Majuk, the data queen herself, to break down Thursday night football and look ahead to the games. As I tell you guys every time before we get out of here, stay safe out there.